back again, joined by MMA Fighters Only Coach of the Year nominee, but most importantly, the number one coach in the Coach's Main Event Marathon. We got my guy, Eric Nicksick of Extreme Couture. Eric, how's it going, my brother?
Doing well, man. It's good to be back.
Yes, sir, man. It's been a couple months since we've been able to communicate, but I know you've been busy. I've been busy and all that stuff, but I was happy that we were able to, nail down a time here to actually break down this upcoming card as well. But before we actually get into the upcoming card, I just want to get your quick thoughts on your last pick, which ended up hitting, which was Amanda Nunes. A little bit chalky at minus 275, but at least it wasn't the minus 600 that she was in the first fight, where she ended up fumbling the bag there. But she came in rejuvenated, reinvigorated, and we saw one of the best versions of her at UFC 277. So just want to get your quick thoughts on her performance and what you thought about that fight.
It reminded me a lot of GSP Matt Serra. Just caught him on an off night, and maybe that's sometimes where I think at the highest level, a champion that hasn't really been tested at all, and maybe that she just let her guard down a little bit more than she needed to, and she went back and reevaluated her situation. And I feel that Joanna Pena is more tough than she is skilled. But she's I thought she did a great job herself, and she hung in there, showed a lot of resiliency. But I just know how good Amanda Nunes is, and I think she was going to expose her that night, and she did.
Yeah, I wanted to get your quick thoughts in regards to how she made her the change in her training camp, right? We obviously knew that she was aligned with the American Top Team for the majority of her career before she was at MMA Masters, if I'm not mistaken. But then she decided to just, go off on her own. She has the money to open up her own gym, just have private training, kind of just have the coaches focusing on her. Obviously, now we know it worked out for her, but what are your thoughts on when a fighter chooses to do something like that, to leave a big gym and start up their own type of thing?
Well, I think it's really depicted on the fighter and the attention that they might need, or the attention that they're getting. We have a big gym similar to ATT. I know ATT, to me, from the outside looking in, and I don't know this by fact, but they seem to have like kind of their cliques, if you will. And it's like, Mike Brown has his crew, and Perupa has his crew, and Conan has his crew. And I'm sure they cross train a lot. So, but if a fighter of her caliber feels like she's not getting what she needs, then a lot of times you see that kind of turn into like a more of a boxing style camp, where they're bringing in their training partners. And you hit it on the head. When you have that type of money, then you're able to afford to say, hey, look, I need you to come in. I'm going to pay for your services. Whereas like in a bigger gym, we kind of help each other. The team revolves around one another. So you go, hey, I'll be here for you, but you'll be here for me, and then vice versa. In that situation, she said, hey, look, I got the money. I'm going to pay for my training partners. I'm going to pay for my coaches. I'm going to pay for my camp. And you saw how well it worked out for her in this fight.
Yeah, I'm glad that she kind of dispelled that whole thing of everybody's like, oh, she left that big gym. She's not going to be herself. She's not getting the training partner she needs. But like every fighter is different, and you kind of just laid it out perfectly there. So it worked out for her. It may not work out for somebody else, but the thing that matters for her is that it worked out that night. All right, let's shift our focus here to UFC 278, which is headlined by a welterweight fight, a rematch, a title fight actually, of a fight that took place back in December of 2015. Funnily enough, it was only the third fight of the night that night when Kamaru Usman went out there and dispatched of Leon Edwards. He landed 6 takedowns that night, but most importantly, controlled that fight for close to 11 minutes out of the full 15 minutes that they fought. Just quickly looking at that card, though, like the first fight of the night, your boy, Francis Ngannou, taking on Luis Enrique. He obviously finishes him in the second round. Then the second fight was Vicente Luque against Hader Hassan, and then Kamaru Usman came after that. So it's just hilarious just looking back at these older cards and seeing where these guys were placed and seeing where they are at now in their life. But yeah, so obviously a Kamaru Usman-esque performance that night in December of 2015. Here he is going up against Edwards for the second time. And Edwards actually has not tasted defeat since that fight. He's been on an undefeated streak pretty much since that fight. There's that one no contest sprinkled in there with Bilal Muhammad, as we know, due to that unintentional eye poke. But he seems like a man that has been deserving of a title shot for the past 2 years. He finally gets his crack this Saturday. What are your thoughts on this fight? How do you think they match up? Do you think we see Edwards make the improvements required to defeat Usman, or do you think Usman continues to reign supreme in this welterweight division?
Well, let's start off with the first thing is Kamaru Usman is evolving every time out of the gate. You're seeing new wrinkles in his game, new elements. And I think that's what you get when you have a champion, the caliber of Kamaru and what he's doing. The same guy on those same parallels to me is Alexander Volkanovski. Every time out, you're seeing new wrinkles and new step ups in his game, and he's constantly kind of almost trying to lap the competition. He doesn't want anybody to catch up to him, so he's constantly working to get better every time out, right? And then the same thing, really, you could point that to Leon Edwards. Every time out, this guy's getting better and better and better. The one thing that I think that we kind of miscalculate or don't get to see is how well improved Leon's ground game has been in these last 7 years. The reason why I say that is because he hasn't really been tested there. So what he's been doing in the gym versus what's being transformed out into the cage are kind of the unknowns, because we haven't really seen him tested in any of the grappling. Maybe against Gunnar Nelson, right? Maybe there's some areas there, but for the most part, I think that you're going to see a little bit more of an even matchup in this fight. Maybe because Kamaru is starting to learn and lean a little bit more on his striking, and maybe he doesn't come out and try to wrestle right away, because earlier in his career, that's what's been ingrained in him, is to get in on the legs. Now that the other side's tilted a little bit more in the favor of the striking, I can see this being a little bit more of a striking match in the beginning, where if I was in Kamaru's corner, I think I'd come out and get attached to his legs right away, early on, and then set that element into Leon's head going, oh, okay, now I got to wrestle. So when you start feinting and you start setting up your strikes with level changes, that's going to help understand the hand placement of Leon Edwards. And, hey, do I shoot underneath? Do I cover? Do I throw? Do I counter? And furthermore, that's going to make it very taxing on Leon Edwards' arms when he has to underhook and pommel and disconnect and frame. So a guy who is predicated on a lot of his striking and his kickboxing, how do you take a lot of sting out of those punches? You wear on a guy, you sag on a guy, you get heavy on a guy. And we know Kamaru and his cardio, I think if you go rounds 1 and 2 and you really weigh heavy on Leon and make him work, that's going to only make your striking get better down the line.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Edwards' game is everybody just classifies him as a striker. But if you go through his fights and go through some of his statistics, he likes going for takedowns as well, right? The one thing that really surprised me was that fight that he had against Rafael dos Anjos, or even the Gunnar Nelson fight, where he was the one shooting takedowns first, right? Everybody expected it to be the other way around, but he was the one that shot the takedowns to kind of get those guys thinking, keeping them on their toes, thinking about the level change and the boxing that's going to be coming their way from the Leon Edwards side. So I love what he's been able to do from a fight IQ aspect, but it's still going to come down to, can he stuff the takedowns? Can he, keep Kamaru off of him? Because Kamaru, one of the best at doing it, right? He always gets the takedowns when he wants them. He's able to control guys when he needs to. But now, like you said, he's really rounding out that striking game of his. And that's just been on full display over the last couple of fights, right? To be able to knock out Jorge Masvidal for the first ever time in Masvidal's career, insane. A very spectacular performance there from Kamaru Usman. So I think we see a better version of him every single time out. The only guy that usually throws a wrench into his plans is Colby Covington, who I believe is like a carbon copy of Kamaru Usman, but just will unfortunately be the bridesmaid. Yeah, exactly. He'll always be the bridesmaid in this welterweight division as long as Kamaru Usman's at the top, right? Similar to like the Joseph Benavidez and Dominic Cruz situation way back in the day in WEC and early UFC days. So in terms of a prediction, are we safe to say that you're going to be leaning on the Kamaru Usman side here?
I am, and I think that, to me, this is a Kamaru Usman decision. I don't think this is a finish. I actually do kind of feel like it's going to be a close fight. I do feel like it might be a 2-2 going into 5. But with a guy like Kamaru Usman and his pedigree and his skill set that he has to back it up, I think that he can use his situational awareness to the point to kind of get this decision and go get that last takedown he might need, go get that last scramble he might need, to kind of solidify a victory. The things that worry me, I guess, and this is not a matter of fact, or this is not a matter of knowledge, this is just one of those things that we even talked about earlier in the segment, is a guy who's been a champion and a guy who's been doing these things, is his focus taken away from other avenues, movies, friends, this,
Black
that.
Panther.
Just by fact. It's just me speaking on just looking at this situation as a whole and trying to play devil's advocate on the Leon Edwards side. Is Kamaru Usman not as focused as he always has been? And could this be one of those letdown games, if you will? right? Like if you're Notre Dame, but you're playing Tennessee Chattanooga, but the next week you got Alabama, then you're not focused on Tennessee Chattanooga, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have those letdown games in between. Again, just speaking from hypothetical senses, is I think Leon Edwards might have a little bit better of a chance if Kamaru is not as focused as he always is in these fights. But I think he is, and I think he'll be ready to go, and I think he gets this decision.
Yeah, in regards to the odds as well, right? We're talking about the first time that they met. Kamaru Usman was minus 240 to the plus 200 of Leon. Now he's minus 360, and then on the flip side for Leon Edwards, we're looking at plus 295. So, based on your analysis of this fight, you believe that Edwards has a better chance than 25% indicates, correct?
I think this is a dog or pass.
I don't mind
Dog
that.
go Usman by decision. I mean, you got to get one of the props on that, but I do feel Leon Edwards is being very disrespected in the odds making because of his win streak and everything that he's put together. But again, we talked about this in the past, are the unknowns, right? No one ever expected Francis Ngannou to come out to wrestle.
You did.
Right? But you got to understand there's things that are shown in the cage, there's things that are shown in the room. And there's a growth pattern there for Leon Edwards he's shown in his fights that I think his wrestling is going to be a lot better than what the odds makers are thinking. Because that number I see is the odds maker go, Kamaru's going to come out and wrestle him, take him down, and he's not able to get up.
Yeah, and we have to take into consideration the improvements that we've been seeing Edwards make over, the last 7 years, like you're saying as well. Quickly, just touching on the whole Black Panther Kamaru Usman thing. How the hell is Francis not in there? How is he not getting the call up? Yeah, I mean, you gotta get to his manager and be like, hey, come on. He's sitting on the sidelines anyway with an injury. Might as well throw him in there in a wheelchair, even if he has to.
Yeah, no idea. I know he was filming something or some movie or whatever else. So, man, like when he's not in the gym, and I don't see him like it's like your little brother. You got to keep an eye on this guy all times, So, yeah, he's out in Africa right now. They're filming a documentary and doing everything else. So he's doing his thing, man. But I can't wait to get his ass back in the gym and get back to work.
Any timeline on that? Like since the last time that we spoke, any updated timeline in terms of when he is looking to get back or get back into the cage?
Nothing on the timeline of when he'll get back in. They just let him cleared him for hitting pads. So we started doing that about a month ago, and we got him back in the gym and moving around. And that's been a lot of fun. Him and Coach Dewey been working, and then we had him a couple days in here. And then obviously this business opportunity came up for him on the documentary to get back. So he's back home. He should be back in early September. And then once he gets back in September, then we're going to get right back to work and then kind of see where the body goes and where we can line something up.
I love it. And again, I just want to touch on this one last time in terms of Francis. Do you see a viable number one contender? Do you see a guy that you guys have the target on to be like, okay, let's take on this challenge next?
Well, obviously the John Jones is always going to be there. And, but again, it's like this fucking woolly mammoth, like, or this Bigfoot, like when, where, like,
it's so discouraging, man.
It's just so much. So, you got to give Stipe his credit because he's still to me the greatest heavyweight to ever do it. So I think I give Stipe one because Stipe is the heavyweight. He has been fighting in that division. John Jones is still the unknown. When's he going to fight? If he's going to fight, you got to give Curtis Blades his credit for what he's been doing in the division. Tai Tuivasa, and then you got Gone fighting in September. That's going to shake some things up as well. So, and then obviously Tom Aspinall, man, an unfortunate knee injury. But to me, as the coach of the champion, Tom Aspinall has been the guy that I've been keeping my eye on and watching his growth and his maturation in that division as well. So there's a lot of good things coming up.
I like it. So Stipe Jones, hopefully, is kind of what we're expecting, but still a lot of unknowns based on John Jones being as inactive as he is. And that hurts me, man. I was a guy that, was very much on that John Jones train when he started off in his career. And, I got to watch a lot of his fights live because before it was legalized in New York, the closest place they could do it was Ontario up here in Toronto. So he defended the title a bunch up here in Toronto. And now just to see where he's at in his career, you wouldn't have thought that, 8 years ago or whatever it was. But it is what it is. Hopefully we get to see that Ngannou matchup eventually because that would be one for the fans. Absolutely. All right. Before we end off the show, you know what we like to do here. This is the fun part of the show, the coach's main event marathon aspect of it. Like I said, you are atop the leaderboard right now with the 4-3 record with $42.27 of profit. for a 6% ROI. You're the only coach right now in the green, so you got a lot to, you got a lot to hold up here, and hopefully cash another ticket this weekend. We talked a little bit about the guys that you were leading before we started recording. Now, after we've talked for about 15 minutes, who has your mind settled on? Who do you want to take the shot on? Who's going to be your pick for UFC 278?
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb on this one, and I know that there's a lot of unknowns, but when I stack up the skill set with between Luke Rockhold and Paulo Costa, I feel like although Luke hasn't been involved in the game in a long time, he hasn't fought in a long time, I feel like he's got the better all-around skill set if he's able to take this fight to the floor. If he's able to use his length on the feet, get this fight to the floor, his jiu-jitsu, his wrestling, his ground game. To me, I feel like the value to be able to get Luke at plus odds at what, 290, I think it was?
Yeah, and not even plus odds, but plus 295, which is insane.
Man, just with his pedigree alone, and I know he's had chin issues. I know he's been knocked out in the past and all those things. So I'm really going to go out on a limb on this one, go with my Ruka counterpart guy. I'm going to go with Luke Rockhold on this one. So I'm looking forward to seeing him get back in there. I think the division's only better with Luke Rockhold in it. I think he makes everybody in that division a lot better. I love what Paulo Costa's done in the past, but I'm gonna lean towards Luke on the value on this one and take him at plus 295.
It's hard to argue that. Like all week, I've been saying, Paulo Costa should probably go out and knock this guy out. But if he doesn't, Luke Rockhold has a better skill set all around, and you kind of just laid that out, right? And we saw it last week in the co-main event of the San Diego card, David Onama and Nate Landwehr. Nate, if he doesn't get put out, that guy's tough to deal with. And David Onama got the full wrath of Nate Landwehr that night, and he cashed as a plus 260 underdog. So absolutely possible here with Luke Rockhold. I see where you're coming at.
That was the same exact mindset.
Yep.
I love what David's doing, and this kid is super talented. I actually wrote him after the fight. Yo, keep up what you're doing. But as a bettor, I'm looking at value. That's all. I don't care who wins or loses in that regard. I think David wins that fight 9 out of 10 times. But because of skill set and value and that kind of placement on where the card was and the kid and everything else, it was an easy value bet for me in taking Nate Landwehr.
There we go. I love it. I love the coach bringing in the betting philosophies and the analogies, and I love it. This is what people come here for as well, and that's why you're at the top of the leaderboard here. I mean, I love all the other guys, but we got the coach of the year nominee on the show this week. So we'll see if you can go out there and cash that Luke Rockhold ticket, because if you do, you'll have a solid lead amongst the rest of the crowd. Exactly. It's going to be tough for those guys to catch up with you. And we got September, October, November, December. We got 4 pay-per-views left after this weekend, and I don't know if they're going to be able to make up that ground. Anything you want to say to them before we get out of here, though?
No, man, I love the competition, man. This is what it's all about, and it's a bunch of guys that I consider my friends and colleagues in this game. So we're on the back burner, we're on the phone, we talk all the time, and I love all these guys, and it's just a fun time. So when I get to see them on the road, I get to fucking get after them a little bit.
You should just pull up the image of the standings every time and just like put it in front of their face and just be like, yo, what's good? What's going on?
I'll make a t-shirt.
Hey, and the end of the season, I might do something like that. I might have to put like just the standings and then you with the crown over your head if you end up in the top spot there. But no
work to do, man. So I don't want to,
yeah. Knock on wood. Don't jinx it.
Don't jinx it. Yeah, born and raised in Vegas, I'd have guys that you'd be up, 9 runs in the 9th inning, and somebody's like, "You got this locked up." Like, don't say that shit.
3 grand slams coming your way. I love it. Nick, Eric, sorry, I always get it mixed up with the Nicksick and Eric. But Eric, I truly appreciate the time as always, my friend. Anything you want to say to the viewers before we get you out of here, or is that pretty much it?
That's it, man. Thank you guys for all the love and support.
Bang, I love it. Make sure you guys go check out Eric on his Twitter and his Instagram. Link to that is going to be in the description below as well. Right under his name, you'll be able to see his Twitter handle and Instagram handle. So make sure you guys go follow him. Best of luck to all the fighters that you got competing on the upcoming cards. And best of luck on Luke Rockhold this weekend. Hopefully you can cash that ticket. Appreciate you as always, Eric.
My pleasure, brother. Shoots.